Join me. Well, first of all, welcome to the regular meeting of the Recreation and Parks Commission Zoom meeting. And would everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Montse, roll call, please.
Kelly Watson,
Present.
Julie Stolnak. Are we missing her?
Present.
Dave Luggs, Lee Davis, and Bob Moda.
I'm here. Thank you. Presentations tonight. I don't see any. I want to make sure. Okay. All right. Public communications. Did we have any public communications?
I do not have any.
Okay, thank you. Move to consent calendar. Approval of the minutes of the Recreation and Parks Commission meeting of March 17th, 2021. Anyone?
So moved.
Second, Lee Davis.
Montse, roll, voice count, please. Voice vote.
Kelly Watson,
Yes.
Julie Stolnak. I think she,
I didn't hear it.
neither did
Okay,
I. I think you're on mute, Julie.
Okay.
There you go.
okay.
Dave Luggs,
Yes.
Lee Davis,
Yes.
and Bob Moda.
Yes, that's 5-0. And now, unfinished business, consideration and possible action regarding the tree removal at 309 East Mariposa Avenue. Recommendation is to approve the ficus tree removal at 309 East Mariposa Avenue. Melissa, is Christopher going to take that, or are you?
I'll take it.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. As you recall, we recommended to have a tree removal at 309 Eucalyptus, and at the last meeting, it was continued for preparation of a arborist report. West Coast Arborist prepared the report, and that should have been included in your packet. Couple things I wanted to point out or emphasize, and that's on page 5 of that report. The tree rating was considered high risk, and the recommendation and conclusion mitigations, if you will, is for the entire tree and trunk to be removed. And it, due to the state of the tree and so forth, no other mitigation measures were considered. And so I'll turn it back over to you. That's basically the report. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions for Christopher? I'm looking around the room. I'm seeing no questions. I just want to make sure you, Christopher, you said 309 Eucalyptus, 309 East Mariposa. I want to confirm that address.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's another removal.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Thank you.
And then
Anyone?
I have one question. I can speak, right? Or I can't speak? Okay.
No, sorry. Melissa, let's see, I don't have anything. Elias, did you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted you to know that I hand deliver a copy of the report myself to the resident, and I had the conversation with them afterwards. They seem to understand now that the tree needs to be removed. And I called them this morning and I sent them personally, I sent them a copy of the invite to make sure they knew about the meeting tonight. And they told me that this to them was an understandable case. So if they are not present at the meeting, it's not that because we did not inform them, they knew well in advance about the time of the meeting, and they had all the Zoom links. So at this time, I'd be more than happy to also add anything else you need for me to, or answer any question you may have. Thanks.
Okay, anyone? Dave, nothing? Then I'd like to make the motion that we approve the ficus tree removal at 309 East Mariposa Avenue per staff report and from West Coast Arbors, their report also. More importantly, I'd also like to thank staff for their quality work on this. Christopher, you and Santos, thank you. And Elias, thank you for speaking with the resident. Is there a second on my motion?
I'll second it.
Monse, can we have voice vote, please?
Yes, was it Lee that second? Just to make sure.
I did, Julie.
Julie made the
Okay,
second.
Julie. Give me a second. Kelly Watson,
Approve.
Julie Stolnak,
Approve.
Dave Lubes,
Yes.
Lee Davis,
Yes.
and Bob Moda.
Yes. That was 5-0.
5-0.
Thank you. We have new business. Consideration and possible action related to the selection of a final conceptual design for the Eurosari Swim Stadium. And Melissa will take this because she wants to add some stuff here.
Yeah, so good.
Please
good
go ahead.
to
Thank
meet all. Recreation Superintendent Eric Hester is not able to be here tonight, so I am going to kick off this item. But I want to start by thanking Ericia, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Watson, Linnea Palmer, Joe Lormans, Cheryl Ebert, Elias Sassoon, our fabulous partners Methuen, and the many El Segundo community members who took time to help with development of the conceptual design for the plunge that we're going to see and discuss tonight. I'm going to keep my intro short, as I know you're very eager to see the design, but I did want to clarify that staff's recommendation has changed slightly since the agenda was posted. We now recommend a progress report tonight that focuses on the results of the needs assessment and development of the conceptual design. After that presentation and discussion, we recommend continuing this item to the May 19th Recreation and Parks Commission meeting for a separate preliminary conceptual design budget presentation and discussion. And we hope at that time that the commission will be ready to provide a recommendation to City Council as part of that meeting on May 19th. The aquatic subcommittee will meet during the next month to discuss the budget, and the design and budget will be included as part of next month's agenda for both commission and community consideration. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Darren Vieira from Methuen.
Okay, hi, good evening, commissioners. Thank you for giving us the opportunity for our team, me to come and present to you. I'll never get used to doing these public and community presentations over Zoom, but I'll try to make virtual eye contact with as many of you as possible as we go through the presentation. And as Melissa said, it's really been a pleasure to work with city staff and members of the aquatic subcommittee as well on this. So this is not just our design. I think it's important to note that as we go through this, this is a design that's evolved through many discussions with staff and also community members, and also the aquatic subcommittee as well. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation. Okay. Before we get going, I just want to confirm that you can see some glistening water and City of El Segundo Eurosari Swim Stadium renovation. Is that coming through? Okay, great. Thanks. Next slide. Okay, so our project here is focused on a renovation to the Eurosari Swim Stadium, and then just as an outline of our presentation today, I want to go all the way back to the fall when we first engaged on this project, and we'll give you a brief introduction to some of our thoughts as we initiated the project coming into it with little knowledge of the facility itself. And then following that initial site analysis by our team, we went into a needs assessment period, which included not only interviews with city staff and stakeholders, but a community-wide survey and then a presentation of our findings of the needs assessment, which prioritized a number of renovation options. We're also going to discuss the programming, and then finally, at the end, we'll get to the concept design, just to show the kind of the depth of the body of work that we've produced. So just beginning with our initial impressions of the swim stadium, and I do want to say, I'm a former resident of El Segundo. I lived there for 7 years on Penn Street, and had the privilege of taking my daughter when she was a year old to her first swim lessons at the plunge. So I recognize both personally and as a member of the community what a significant building this is to the history and the legacy of athletics and recreation in El Segundo. I think there's no question that as a resident of El Segundo, the recreational facilities in the parks are at the forefront of the vibe and the feel and of the bringing together of community in the city. And so looking at the Urosari Swim Stadium, we recognize the building not just simply as a swim stadium that was initially designed for competitive swimming and training, but as really a community recreational asset. And that's not limited just to swimming per se, but all types of engagement with aquatics. And then also looking at it as really a centerpiece, or at least one of the key figures in a network of community features. So its adjacency to Library Park and the playing fields off to the west, and then also to Main Street, places this facility as a community asset that can actually relate to the immediate neighborhood, and then also provide an identity for the recreational facilities of the entire city. So it's more than just a swim stadium. And I think you'll see through the concept design how that thinking has carried through our process. Who are we? We're Mithun. We're an architecture firm. We are located on the West Coast. My office is in Culver City. And we also have offices in San Francisco and Seattle. And our partners on this is Aquatic Design Group. And Dennis from Aquatic Design Group will be presenting aspects of the pool renovation specific to the bodies of water and then the pool mechanics. And we saw this process, this design evolves through partnerships, not only with our consultants in mechanical, which is Integral Group, and structural Engelkirk, and then plumbing also being Integral, and who did electrical design as well, but then also stakeholders. That's the lifeguards, the maintenance, facility operators, users, coaches and instructors, whether or not they're full-time at the facility or come in with their own private teams, and then also the community, families, that's businesses as well, and visitors. We established early on a priority equilibrium, just as a way of like placing ideas and responses into buckets, and looking at community response programming. So not just thinking about this building as a physical place with infrastructure and pipes and how to upgrade the pool, but thinking really about how the community engages with this space, the programming needs of the facility and the community, both now and in the future, recognizing that there's an evolving public and the relationship with recreation, and then renovation upgrades, the physical stuff of the building, seismic retrofitting if necessary at all, lighting, acoustics, and then also beautification and comfort. Recognizing that this is a historical facility and an asset to the community, and thinking not just about keeping it standing, but also retrofitting and renovating this place back to its original glory. So as I said, our process started with a feasibility study and needs assessment, and it's culminating in a concept design in this public presentation, and then ultimately to go on to City Council. So our needs assessment was three-part. There was a facility analysis, which involved our team of consultants, and along with city staff, and actually the employees who work in the building as well, conducting a site visit in which we documented existing conditions of the building. And then also later following that, we developed a list of questions and conducted staff interviews and surveys of city staff, key stakeholders, and again, people working in the building day in and day out. And then we actually reached out to the entire community with an online survey, posted flyers around town, and received an overwhelming response from the community. Nearly 1,000 community members responded. So in our initial site analysis, I'll just go briefly into some of the key items that we observed, but lots of code issues within the existing building. Of course, it was built, in the 1930s. It's a very old building, and even in the retrofits that had occurred sometime in the 90s, none of the accessibility standards of that time actually hold up to current standards. So key issues were ADA accessible bathrooms, lockers, changing areas, slope and traction requirements on pool decks. And then a big item was barrier-free access to the pool. How do we upgrade this facility so that people have access getting safely in and out of the pool? And then access to bleachers and seating areas. There's no elevators in the building, there's no lifts, et cetera. And then looking at, accessible exit locations, code signage as well. I'm just gonna turn it over to Dennis just for a moment for him to discuss more in depth the state of the pool mechanics and the pool itself.
Thank you, Darren. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for allowing us this time. As Darren mentioned, when we started the project, we looked at a feasibility study and a needs assessment. And as this type of study, we identified conditions and how they comply with current codes, standards, industry standards of care. In addition, we also took a look at the facility and the ability for maintenance and operations, sustainability, reliability. And then lastly, after we had an opportunity to talk to staff and better understand programs and uses, then we started to take a look at the built environment and say, what enhancements might we be able to consider as part of this process? We knew that going through, there were certain issues, like you see the image in the top left, the curb or this plinth that runs around the pool itself creates this difficulty to get in and out of the pool. And so looking at how we might be able to make this friendlier and easier for people to have access, to provide the ADA accessibility, as Darren mentioned before, to be able to eliminate these obstructions became one of the early pieces that we talked about. We also knew we had two swimming pools, our senior pool and junior pool, that in original design were commingled as a single body of water, which health code no longer allows us to do. Coming up with ways for permanent access stairs for people to get in and not have to make a vertical climb was something that was important to people, and the thermal comfort in that space was something that we heard early on. So we looked at the pool and the deck, we looked at these mechanical systems and said, how can we make this better? Darren?
Yeah. And then, through staff interviews as well, we kind of bounced some of our observations and ideas about the facility, as outsiders coming in, and then received some really interesting feedback from staff. I think we all knew what a landmark building this is, and the staff just reiterated what a cherished landmark this is. Both of them working within the facility and then at large in the community, something I was already aware of as well. And staff, there is a sense that they wanted to offer more expansive programming and special events, but the facility just really didn't support that. And then also with the new swim center coming online, there was this opportunity now to reposition the plunge, not as this competition swim facility that's handled by the swim center now, but the plunge could now kind of be transformed and reimagined as a neighborhood recreation, fun community vibe. So a pool you kind of just drop in to engage with the water, as opposed to just focusing strictly on exercise, et cetera, and aerobics. So as I mentioned, we did conduct a survey of El Segundo. It was an open online survey, and we received over 900 survey responses. And 92% of the people responding were residents of El Segundo. We had some people who work in the city and drop in to use the facility, and then members of outside organizations and teams or business owners as well. So we had this great expansive reach, and I believe I'm not sure on the existing population currently, but there's a pretty good portion of the residents to respond to an open survey. We had some really great responses, lots of history. And it just the kind of memories and nostalgia for this facility permeated through all of the responses we received, and we really just enjoyed reading about the personal connections people have with this facility. And that's meaningful to us because it allows us through design to create great meaningful spaces that will last in the memory of individuals for the future, so that this isn't just a building that engages a past generation, but a future generations as well. We want the current, children of El Segundo to remember this facility in their own kind of reimagined vision another 74 years down the road, as this one called Codger describes. So key takeaways in the community survey were enhancements to this facility for swimmers were modernizing the locker rooms. Water temperature was key, and privacy came up again and again. The current locker rooms are open locker rooms. There's no privacy within, even in some of the restroom stalls. There's a lot of unused space. Obviously this is a swim facility. People are engaging with the water, and the inconsistency in the water temperature, because of what Dennis described with the two pools being heated on one system, is really problematic. Air quality, there's a stale sense of, within the building. A lot of people attribute that to chlorine, but really it's a lack of good ventilation within the facility. And we found there was really not a functioning ventilation system that could support a facility of this size. That was a key kind of wow moment we discovered. And then, there's some issues with glare and access to the swimming pools, Dennis already described. And then also, this facility isn't just about the swimmers. A lot of times there's parents or individuals who are elder care who are coming to the facility and are there experiencing this place in a different capacity than direct engagement with the water. And so one thing that I observed, having gone to this pool facility, is there's nowhere to sit around the junior pool where you'd like to be observing your little ones swimming. There were no really great areas to take our family restrooms. And then not great access to seating areas direct from the pool deck itself. And then, the check-in process was really kind of a big issue in entering into the facility. You're almost confronted immediately with the entry desk, and that was noted by a lot of residents. And then programming. A lot of people loved their lap swimming. They wanted extended hours for lap swimming, but also there's this desire for additional aerobics classes and expanded programming for kids and seniors. And we have two bodies of water, and one body of water wasn't really supporting anything other than programs for kids and seniors. So we wanted to think about how to integrate new programming and with a finite area of water. And then, of course, the history of Uro Saari and his relationship to the community was critical. There's a lot of ephemera around the space, and we would love to be able to consolidate in that one area to have a huge impact as you enter the building and immediately understand, wait, why is this named Uro Saari? Who is this individual? We wanted in that lobby and your first experience coming into the building to understand that and not have the history kind of tucked away into alcoves wherever it could find some space. This was just a little, it's called a Wordle from some of the key phrases that came up time and again in the community survey. So you see restrooms, restoration, lounge area, history, and privacy, and clean pool and showers. And so our areas of focus, the key takeaway from our feasibility and needs assessment, we sort of broke down into, there were programming, the maintenance and operations, that has to do with the pool equipment, electricity use, et cetera, and then capital improvements, the building itself, the physical stuff, and how do maintenance and operations and capital improvements enhance and expand programming, and how might programming push the capital improvements themselves to expand or to evolve to allow for additional programming. So all of that we presented into a package, and we sort of ranked some potential renovation options and presented that to the community and submitted that to city staff. Following that, then we got into a conceptual design phase where we began with asking questions about programming and looking at optioning and alternatives for the design. And some of this was conducted with the oversight, or at least input, from the aquatic subcommittee as well. So just go briefly into some of those exercises to give a sense of kind of the road path of how we got where we are with the concept design. So we focused a lot on your experience of entering into this building and what that says about how this building will serve the community. And some of that looked at both finding opportunities within this long, narrow lobby space, which it served more as a circulation route and less as a gathering space. And we looked at providing, there was a real lack of storage without it being commingled with the pool equipment area. So we thought about adding additional storage there. And then also some ideas about how to replace the reception desk to create both a better working area for the person who has to sit at that desk and have eyes on the facility throughout the entire day, but then also to create a kind of experience for users in the community entering into the facility. We also looked at options of placing specific family restrooms up near the lobby itself, so that for two reasons. One, the discussion, or what I mentioned earlier about the locker rooms not really being conducive to a mother taking their young son into the women's locker room, with it being an open floor plan and vice versa. And so, and family changing rooms, et cetera. So we looked at options for locating those near the lobby, where also there was some discussion about the Richmond Fields utilizing the plunge locker rooms and how that becomes a kind of issue. And we thought bringing them up to the lobby was an idea about how, again, this facility could serve larger recreational facility goals. And then, the locker rooms, a lot of focus placed on the locker rooms. Initially, we looked at keeping really the kind of open locker room design, but also a key aspect of the locker rooms is that the current facility with the ramps, handrails, and the grading doesn't meet any accessibility standards for, the toilet rooms, the lavatories, nothing, the showers, even the changing areas. So we went through a series of iterations, some of them looking at placing the family room down in the locker room as a possibility too, so that we wouldn't utilize some of that space for the lobby, placing additional mechanical ventilation areas in the locker rooms. And then, as a bigger idea, bigger change was looking at universal locker room configuration that could be used by families, with each changing compartment being private, each shower being private, and each toilet compartment being private, so that there was no issue in commingling women and men. And that led to some really interesting discussions, and really all of these discussions led to the conceptual design that we have now. Before I get into the new overall plan and concept, I want to just focus, again, this is an aquatics facility, so I want to focus on the pool upgrades and turn it back over to Dennis.
Thank you, Darren. So what you're seeing here are some schematic drawings of what we took a look at the pool, where we said that knowing that the pool had issues with water to top of deck access, as we talked about the curb and stuff before, knowing that we had two bodies that were commingled as a single body of water. Now, I've mentioned that before. Why is that important? Well, by separating these two, first of all, code requires that pools like this be filtered and regulated independent of one another to meet current health code standards. And that's important to us in that it would allow us to have different water temperatures from one pool to the other. That's important to us because it allows us to maintain better water quality, because the amount of filtration and chemicals needed from the small pool to the junior pool to the senior pool is completely different. And it's also important to us that if we had swim lessons with toddlers going on in the junior pool, and there's a dirty diaper accident that happens in the pool, that doesn't affect what's going on in the senior pool at the same time. So we knew that we could address some of those issues to try to make this a better opportunity for us to not only meet code, but better serve our programs that we've identified. by taking the,
Dennis, can I ask a quick question real fast?
sure.
Just because more out of curiosity than anything, the pools used to be very different temperatures. Like the small pool used to be able to get to 90. Did that change in the last 10 or 15 years where they put it all together?
Well, what's happened to it is that based on the temperature input that was going back to the pools themselves. So it was a way to try to control it, but then it's very inefficient in terms of the needs of the energy itself.
Got it. But it was always that way. It was just they messed with the system to get it to work that way.
Yeah, guys could really tweak it to try to get to that point.
Got it. Thanks.
Now, part of what we wanted to be able to do here was to clean up that issue of the gutters that will go into more detail. We went into ideas of surface skimmers to get better surface water collection of the system. We've got some stairs in the senior pool in the upper right corner that will identify as a means of accessibility. We also, in the junior pool, added stairs and skimmers to increase our water surface collection and better ways to utilize that pool itself. Darren, you want to go to the next slide, please? Thank you.
Absolutely.
So on the left side, you see the existing configuration of what we call a scum gutter or a J gutter, and that raised plinth, the raised bond beam of the pool itself. That made for this over 2-foot climb above water to try to get up and out of this pool. Again, current health code standard says that the maximum that height is to be is 12 inches. So it exceeds, not only exceeds the code, but made it difficult for a lot of people to be able to get in and out. Also, that J gutter that originally in the original design of this pool was considered a spit gutter or a scum gutter. And that was the water level was run below the lip of that. And it's only what splashed out that would drain into the gutter. And then the intent was to take that off to waste. But by today's standards, well, we can't afford to waste that water, the heat of the water, the chemicals and all of that. That was a very inefficient way. So then previously this pool had been renovated to capture that water, but in doing so, the gutter was too shallow, too small to deal with the displacement of water by all the bathers. So then it floods and it no longer serves as a surface water collection system. That's the current standard on how we can maintain good water quality. So on the right-hand side, you see the detail of where we're going to cut off the top of that plinth, the top of that raised bond beam, bring it down to the gutter, create a little safety handhold piece, fill in the gutter itself. So we eliminate that J gutter. If somebody's trying to put their foot onto the J gutter, does it slip into that small area? Could it injure somebody's ankle or foot? So we eliminate all of that by cleaning that all up and having a nice tile finish through that whole area by what we're proposing to do. In addition, that now is going to have our water 6 inches below the top of deck. So now it's going to be much easier for people to be able to get in and out of the pool anywhere around the perimeter, not just ladders or the new stairs that we've talked about. Next, Aaron, please. So you can see here, this shows those surface skimmers. Now, when I'm referring to surface skimmers, these are not unlike skimmers that you might have in a backyard swimming pool, where we have a little weir that's regulating based on the water level in the pool and baskets, so that if nose plugs or ear plugs or goggles fall off, it comes into these as part of surface water collection with baskets that allows us to retrieve those. In the senior pool, we've identified 10 of those surface skimmers to be added to the pool so that we can increase the water surface recirculation part of the system. On the junior pool, we're proposing to do the same there. And in that case, we've got 2 skimmers that would allow us to be able to do it there as well. On the left-hand side, you can see that the junior pool, here's where we're adding the stairs. This pool is operated with some portable stairs, fiberglass temporary drop-ins, as a means to allow people to get in and out without making that vertical climb. But we understand, we also met with the environmental health, county environmental health, to talk about the issues that we saw at this pool to see if we were doing a renovation or modernization of this pool, what conditions that don't meet current code with the county health department allow us to continue to operate under a grandfathered approval, and what would they require us to update? These stairs were one of the areas that they considered it an entrapment concern of the existing and said they really wanted that to be updated. So in this case, you can see we're showing permanent stairs being added to the pool. As you see in the left-hand image there, the idea is to keep them small enough, however, so that they stay out of that lane so we don't lose use of that lane completely with what we've have going on there. Also, these stairs, by the way they're configured, meet the ADA accessibility requirements as a secondary means of ADA accessibility to the pool. So if we have patrons that are limited in mobility, they don't have to use the lift. They could use this and avoid having to go through all of the stuff of the lift that we would also have as a primary means of ADA accessibility to the pool. In the junior pool, we're doing something similar. Again, you can see the two surface skimmers left and right for a water surface collection. And then we're also proposing to add stairs the entire width of that pool. That's going to allow us to have these stairs or seating areas so that, you know, parents in a mommy or daddy and me class could sit with their children, or parents could sit on a ledge to be able to watch their children play in the pool. And for the entry-level swim lessons, this is another area that can be great for children to be comfortable in the water. By changing this pool to a surface skimmer, we are going to add a slight amount of depth to the pool, to that existing 2 feet 2 inches at the shallow end and the deep end, which then means this pool has a little bit more water, so it could better serve our shallow water senior fitness classes and some of the other programs as well.
Great, thank you, Dennis. And we can talk further about that and how those improvements have affected the conceptual design. One thing Dennis didn't mention is the skimmer configuration allows us to significantly reduce the footprint of some of the overflow tanks that are required for the type of overflow gutter system that maybe you're more accustomed to and you would see at the swim center, at the new swim center. So getting into the concept design, we always start in our renovation projects with, you know, taking an overview of the features and the assets of the existing facility. Really, the original facility, it's such a strong, substantial, sturdy building in an Art Deco style that were, you know, typical of the Works program when it was originally constructed. There's some really interesting tile work throughout the facility. And then obviously we have access to natural light throughout. And then just recognizing that some of the features of the building, including the kind of exposed joist cavity ceiling and then the red painted trusses, are not maybe the most conducive to establishing a brighter, more well naturally lit environment in the interior. But nonetheless, the high ceiling provide us with, and natural light openings provide us with some opportunities there. Just thinking kind of conceptually about this space, we saw kind of 3 specific areas and wanted to relate it, at least tie it conceptually to, you know, El Segundo residents have a familiarity in their adjacency with the ocean, and thinking about starting with the junior pool area as this kind of tide pool area. It's more intimate, enclosed, and protected from the larger open water. And then how the lobby becomes this bright kind of threshold area literally from the view of the junior pool, but also as a kind of threshold to the community beyond. A cross section of the building may exemplify this a little bit better. The horizon being the lobby, bright. We want it to be a bright, light-filled space as you come into the building, where the kind of facility just opens up to your view, and it acts as a threshold and a vista. And then the senior pool is this kind of the open ocean. It's a more social and active, activated space, and advanced for more advanced swimmers, people who may have kind of evolved from their days learning in the junior pool area, which, you know, we're thinking of as a kind of tide pool, safe, protected, a kind of novice area where you can also kind of lounge around that pool or just spectate. And then the locker rooms as this kind of under the sea, private and serene environment. And so we developed, this is the main level plan. We're showing, this is a cut across the pool deck area, which shows the lobby. Recognize that the locker rooms are still a couple of feet below grade here, but this I think gives an overall impression of the transformation of the facility. Just working from the lobby out. Through our discussions of programming, we really started focusing on a central office reception desk to greet incoming residents. We currently have 3 double doors to the facility, which doesn't help with wayfinding. It's a little bit confusing and not really necessary for this not being a large, performance facility. That we thought it would be ideal to relocate those doors around a central reception desk. And we actually switched the location of the reception desk so that the person attending the desk, who also has a responsibility to have eyes on the pool facility, can now all day without having to turn, both observe the pool facility and then welcome guests coming into the facility on either side door. What this does is it would actually, we would preserve a small recess where the existing doors are, but this would actually enclose that middle bay of the exterior facade. And we were thinking it'd be really great to create glass doors, entry doors at either side, so that from the street, you'd be able to look directly into the pool facility and have that connection with the neighborhood and the community. And I'll get to some images of that. You'll see also, we landed on providing family restrooms at the front of the facility on either flank of the lobby. And we did investigate some ideas about putting storage in that area. But if I can go over to the junior pool area now, because we are able to consolidate so much of the pool, or all of the pool mechanical in the new, by the new filtration, new heating methods, et cetera, into the pool mechanical room where it stands, we're able to eliminate the barrier wall along the back of the junior pool, which made for a very shallow deck. And we were able to capture some of that space and recover it for both deck storage, which is really necessary, was a important need for the facility, but then also to provide some terrace seating along the back of the junior pool for both parents and potentially even exercise opportunities, et cetera. So this led to, a large expansion of the deck actually at the junior pool, and we're allowing additional natural light to come in from there as well. And then you'll see a complete reconfiguration of the men's and women's locker room. We will be updating the ramps in there to meet proper slopes and landings for accessibility. And then as you come into the men's locker room, and it's very similar on the women's side as well. We have a series of private, both changing compartments and shower compartments, and a single corridor along the outside where light is actually coming into the space, which is really critical. The current locker rooms are very dingy because there are multiple corridors, one on the interior of the locker room away from the windows, and then the exterior corridor has been enclosed by a partition wall. So we want to open that back up, make it a much more open and airy feeling space while also providing privacy for changing and showering, et cetera. And the same goes for the women's restroom. This is an image of that lobby entry reception desk located centrally with the glass doors on either flank where they exist currently. And then one just kind of wow factor moment we thought was critical to creating this engagement from the street with this more community facility interior was to open what is now just a picture frame window. We have a non-structural wall below, and simply demoing that to open this up for expansive views into the pool facility here. And then also utilizing some of the niche space we have in the current building footprint to consolidate some of that ephemera and history of the building in very intentional ways in the lobby itself. And then as we move now up to the bleacher level, one of the larger transformations here, we initially looked at trying to expand the junior deck area to provide for more options for dry land activities and potentially even like private engagements where maybe a child wants to have a birthday party with his friends or her friends here at the facility and have tables and chairs, et cetera. And with really a great recommendation from staff, we talked then and shifted our goals to creating a large a flat surface terrace on the west end of the pool area. This is through our discussions with staff and their ideas for the programming of this space. We've left it really an open space overlooking the pool, and this could be used for a number of just a parent who wants to go and watch their child swim. They may be able to have some high tops and cafe tables along the edge here, or maybe a swim practice team coming up here to do stretching and dry land activities in preparation for that. There's a number of activities that could take place there. This is what the existing terrace looks like, and you can tell there's a few steps of shallow bleachers on that side, natural light coming in, and the connection with the Richmond Field adjacent. And then this is the idea for the transformation of that terrace. And it's very simply, we're just constructing a deck up there with a glass guardrail so that we don't impede upon the natural light coming into the space. And one really interesting function of this terrace and the floor related to bringing natural light into the space is there is some issues with direct light onto the pool area. But what is ideal and a way of dealing with that in other facilities like office facilities is create light shelves to reflect that direct light off of a surface onto the ceiling, which provides more diffuse natural light for the entire facility. So there's the opportunity there with the reflective floor surface here to actually brighten the facility with this move. And as you can see, it's pretty expansive open space here. We talked about other options for configurations with maybe sliding partitions along the trusses if in fact this needed to be bisected for multiple events or multiple spaces. Again, this is just a side-by-side of what the terrace looks like compared to the existing condition. One other thing I'll point out here is, and this is just, we think is really critical to the junior pool area, is currently all of the pool mechanical equipment is concealed by a wall that stretches all the way across the back of the junior pool and is actually only about 5 feet from the back edge of the junior pool. And while that wall does have kind of mesh that for the last couple of feet up to the ceiling, it essentially blocks any natural light coming in through these large, very large windows at the back here. So by eliminating that pool mechanical area and stopping the storage compartments short, or stopping them at the window seals in the back, we both create the same condition of a light shelf, which will help reflect some of that natural light off the ceiling, and then bring in, generous, unimpeded natural light into the junior pool area. It will be completely transformative for this space. And then you can see a larger kind of terrace seating, not benches per se, but something a bit deeper where you could even lay out your beach towel and sit up there to dry. And then we still are proposing to maintain one area of the bleachers for larger events and greater capacities. So this is just a side-by-side to give you an idea of where we've kind of captured all of these new elements. The locker room, not showing great detail here, but just a reminder of how many kind of corridors there are in and between each of these elements. There's a lot of wasted space in the existing locker rooms, whereas now we locate everything along a single corridor along the windows so that we have consistent light pouring into the locker rooms, and then a series of inlets to get into the shower and changing facilities. And then this is just a side. Oh, another thing to point out, just as a reminder of the expansive pool mechanical area and the curbs that surrounded the pool no longer being there, we are able to consolidate all of this former space used for pool equipment into this single area. So now this storage facility can be used for all sorts of accessories, kickboards, fun noodles, even potentially storing lane lines, et cetera, or the water polo goals. And then terrace seating along the back of the junior pool. As we get up to the terrace, again, just a side-by-side comparison, bleachers before with a large circulation area. And what we've done is just really extended that circulation area to create one uniform terrace. So existing for just new by the data, we've increased not only the fixture counts, which were actually, the current facility, as you know it, it's a lot of fixtures have been removed. So we are below code in every plumbing fixture requirement. So now we're bringing the facility up to code as far as the plumbing code requires fixture counts. Um, this is the data. I won't go through every point, but I will point out that there were no accessible toilet facilities. And now in each locker room, we're meeting code with accessibility. We have 10 showers total. 6 of them would just be individual shower compartments, which are private, and then 4 that would meet ADA and/or large enough where mother and child, father and child could go into that facility and have a changing space and a shower space separate from one another. Those, and then, previously in the women's room, there are 20 changing compartments, which were very small, very tight. And now we have 19 changing compartments, all private. And then we've provided, there actually are not lockers in the existing women's room. And now we have 24 in each of the men's and women's.
Hey, Darren, before you move on, I'm sorry, what's a lavatory? What's the difference between a lavatory and a toilet?
Lavatory is a sink.
All right.
All right. That's a code term. I know. I would never refer to my sink in my restroom.
Well, I to not embarrass myself, I actually looked it up first.
Okay.
And the definition is a room or a compartment with a toilet and a wash basin.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was confused. I'm like,
sorry. Yeah, we refer in the code we refer to labs as the sinks. Yeah, that
cool.
Work with the toilets. There you go. Wash basin. That's an even more dated term, Brian. Okay, so existing natatorium, we're just talking about the expansive kind of pool hall of the junior and senior pool area. Before we had 3,646 square feet of pool deck, and we've increased the actual deck space significantly, almost 500 square feet by reducing the footprint of the pool mechanical. And that's with adding 300 square feet of deck storage and 248 square feet dedicated to junior pool seating. And you can see why the number at the bottom here, we've significantly reduced the area dedicated to the pool mechanical. And then again, just focusing in greater detail. I mean, I've already gone over these numbers. So this is our existing locker room. As you can see, we've got high partitions here, a screen wall using the toilet compartments to break up actually the openness of this locker room. Really dated equipment here, trying to provide some thermal comfort and actually no ventilation into this area, which is not a great configuration for a swimming facility with a lot of moisture. Here is just a conceptual idea for how those locker rooms might work, with one kind of continuous block of private partitions with an open sink and washing area. And you can see, a wide enough corridor where people can comfortably pass each other. Also creates a kind of openness to the locker room that, for safety and help to actually facilities. There's not a lot of cavernous areas now within the locker room, and then access to natural light actually pouring into the facility. The partitions are kept low along the perimeter so that the natural light can actually extend into the deepest compartments. Again, that's just a side-by-side. Here's just a shot from there inside and gives you an idea of, actually narrower gap between the floors to add for additional privacy in the shower and changing rooms, and then how the block of lockers actually are integrated into the partition blocks. These are what the current state of the private changing compartments are in the women's room, just a side-by-side. And then just getting into the broader building systems. And I know this is a kind of a highly technical drawing, but just want to describe some of the key features here. And I won't go into each one. One thing to note is the now floor to ceiling in the lobby, expansive glass wall, and the new guardrail on the terrace. Very important too is that we're proposing all new both indirect and direct lighting, LED lighting within the facility. We think in order to reduce glare within the facility with the artificial lighting, it would be ideal to utilize the high ceilings and a reflective surface to create a more diffuse indirect light over the pool surface, which will reduce glare and increase safety. And while we don't think we can achieve full code light levels, we can get just about there. So there will only need to be a few hours a day in the winter and summer where you would have to operate with direct light onto the pool surface just to enhance that when the sun goes down. And then also we are proposing all new ventilation system with mechanical equipment mounted over the junior pool area. We've saved some space for the pool mechanical by mounting the equipment now on the rooftop above the junior pool. Again, another detailed section, but just to give you a sense of how the community terrace works, that we would just essentially be building a level deck here with a guardrail, the locker rooms below, and again, new ductwork and lighting that would be mounted above the pool deck, no lighting over the pool itself for ease of maintenance in the future. And then just because I think this is maybe our best opportunity to show the possibilities for a complete transformation of this facility with just a couple very simple moves. This is the current condition. When you enter the facility, you can tell the front desk, you're confronted almost immediately with the desk, and the chair is exposed and all of the kind of back of house stuff there at the front desk. You've got some old radiant heaters, et cetera, but a lot of great, really interesting ephemera scattered around that space. And then with the proposed new glass wall, this is your experience of entering into the facility with the new conceptual design. And just to go through that, and that is the end of our presentation, and happy to answer any questions and go back over any of the exhibits that you have questions about. And thank you for your attention. I know that was a lot to go through, and we really appreciate this opportunity. So I'll open the floor.
Questions? Who's got them? I can only see a few of you here. So let's see, put you back out there. There you go. Okay.
Bob, I can go first or last or however you want,
Go ahead.
whenever
Go
you
ahead,
want me to
Dave.
go. You want me to
Go
go
ahead,
first? So first question is, and maybe some of these aren't determined yet because you kind of wait and see how things go. But I was just wondering if the goal of staff in this process and or as it sits right now is to have those bathrooms accessible for the Richmond Street field. You mentioned it kind of in passing, but is that something that are those going to be open to the public? Can anyone walk by the plunge when the plunge is open and just walk in there and use those restrooms now? Can Richmond use them? And then I couldn't tell on the drawing, but was there an exterior door to that bathroom? Where are we on the use of those bathrooms for the public in Richmond?
I can answer part two. No, there is no exterior door directly into the restrooms, but maybe staff can answer the intention for the program in there.
So I do just want to emphasize Cheryl and Linnea have been part of these conversations since the beginning. So Cheryl and Linnea, feel free to jump in at any point. My understanding is the intention is to have those bathrooms open to the public in Richmond because it's an added benefit.
Wow, awesome.
And just to point out, Dave, that what will be closed is access to the pool deck and the locker rooms, because now we have the monitoring here. So that's what kind of keeps them into the contained area.
I know that's been a problem for years.
Yeah.
The public going down into the locker room to use the restrooms. So that solves that. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Next question. The kid pool, the small pool, I can't remember what you call it, junior pool.
Junior pool, yeah.
Does it make sense to have the skimmers on the side where people are entering on the stairs? Because in my experience, things typically will get drawn to the skimmer, right? So are we drawing everything into right where people are doing that? Or should the skimmers be on the other side where people are not entering?
We actually have, and I didn't point out, I apologize. ladders and access at the other end of the pool as well. So we really see people getting in and out both sides. We showed them on that stair side because that was the most economical side. That's the closest run to where the mechanical equipment's going to be. So that would be least expensive for construction. Beyond that, it really was somewhat arbitrary, David. It's a great point. I mean, we could put them down the mid wall. We could have put it at the opposing end. Based on these large pools though, and part of what we're also looking to do is to take the turnover rate of that pool, and where code says we need to turn that water over in a 6-hour period or less, it is our intent to try to get that between 2 to 4 hours so that we have the ability to get body oils and sunscreens and everything that might be on, make it easier for us to try to filter and chemically treat it. So with that, we really don't see that as an area where things are going to build up or access. But beyond that, it certainly could go anywhere in the pool.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, real quick, Dennis. Those skimmers, the pool has 360 degrees of overflow where the water just kind of falls into a recessed gutter, if I'm not mistaken, and then it flows down to that skimmer, and the skimmer has a top on it, so that even if you're sitting on the deck, you could sit on top of that skimmer, and most people wouldn't know that's a skimmer. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah. So it's really not. I mean, Dave, when you're thinking of it, it's really kind of subterranean skimmer, and that's going to be around both pools. So you're not actually. It's not one of those old skimmers that had kind of a big deck feel and all that. It's very modern, very sleek, and very streamlined.
So the water is actually flowing in all around the pool, and it's not being drawn only to those 2 spots.
It flows over the top, into the sides of it, and then it's collected at the skimmer, then sent down and filtered and all that good stuff.
Okay, so it's okay. That
Yeah, you'll be able to get out of that pool 360 degrees on both the junior and the big pool.
Yeah, I hear you. I've just been, you know how that pool gets when you got 50 little kids in there. There's a lot of stuff.
50 little kids, and I almost every kid that I know almost broke his ankle in the old gutters and everything else. I've seen it, and I couldn't be happier with the design of the gutters. And we actually, one thing I don't think they touched on is that when we do this, we actually bring the water level in that small pool up, I think, almost a foot, 8 inches to a foot. Is that correct, Dennis?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes it way more user-friendly.
The other thing I also should point out, and thank you for that clarification, Lee. We also have the system that'll be designed hydraulically so that we can take 100% of that water through the main drain system, and we can take 100% of the water, should we choose, from the surface, these new skimmer systems, or a portion either way. And that allows us some margin of error in what happens. And like I said, the other big deal to this is that rather than saying we're going to turn that water through the filtration system in a 6 to 8 hour period, the way the old system operated, we'll have the ability to take all the water that's within that pool back to the filter system within as short as time as 2 hours, which means on an 8 hour turnover, we would filter the water 3 times in a 24-hour period. Now we have the ability to filter it 12 times in a 24-hour period. But at the same token, we take the pumps and the filter systems and attach them to variable frequency drives so that when we don't have a lot of heavy use, we can go into energy savings mode and slow that all down at a rate that maintains the water quality. And then when we do have all of the children and we're in peak load, we can bump that up to maintain it.
Awesome, thanks. Dennis, you mentioned that, or one of you mentioned that the stairs, the ADA stairs on the, what would it be, the northwest corner of the pool does not impact the number of lanes. Really? It doesn't.
Well,
how
about if we rephrase that to minimally impacts the lanes? We specifically took it out of the center of the lane, and the width of that stair was kept so that it was minimal to what was happening to the lane itself. So someone still could be swimming a lap down and back within that lane and use the end wall. Now, if we're doing circuits and we say we've got 6 people that are in the lane, then yes, when we're trying to keep everybody out to the perimeter, that's going to be prevent you from using that end wall where that stair is at. But
Yeah,
given what
and-
happens with the floor transition and given the way the stairs would have to be, if we rotated it 90 degrees, we would actually impede the entire lane itself as it pulls down across the face. So by adding these stairs, this was a way that we could do it with the minimal impact to the lane itself.
Yeah, we're
Does-
showing a lane line just inside of the stair as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe I should ask Kelly or Lee this question. Are we not going to have swimming competitions because of the new pool in here anymore? And this is not an issue that we lose a lane for competition?
Well, personally, as far as I can tell, there would be competitions, but I don't think it'd be for your 12 and overs. I think it would be, inter squad meets where you're going to have your 12 and unders getting their first, the first chance to swim in a competition where they would, be able to get disqualified without having to travel and do all this other stuff and learn the rules of swimming before that. And so, yeah, and even with the stairs there, if you're talking, if this pool is used the way I envision it, it would be for that, 10 and under, 12 and under crowd. They would be able to do, 4 people in a lane and swim a circle, and they're small enough to make it in between that area and do circle pattern. If they're at that stage, chances are they're going to be doing open turns and stuff like that. So it's a necessary evil. It's similar to the aquatic center when we had to put in almost a 20-meter walk into the big pool, which kind of nullifies officials from being on that edge of the pool and a whole bunch of stuff. But the County of Los Angeles and all the regulations kind of mandate that we do certain things. And this is the smallest impediment I think we could do in the pool and still make a gracious attempt at staying at some of the requirements by the county.
Yeah, no, I realize it's definitely required. I just want to know what the impact, like if we need, if there's.
It's one lane and it would have an impact, but I don't think it's going to be major.
And if I may add as well, thank you, Lee. That's exactly right. Spot on. We, as Darren mentioned at the beginning, we do have the new aquatic center to take our high-end competitions. But with this pool, even with the stairs, we meet USA Swimming's requirements for a swim meet of all age levels, actually. And that is, as a swim meet, we're required to have a minimum of 6 lanes.
Ah.
So typical for a pool like this would be to say we have 6 lanes for competition, and then say those top 2 lanes are our warm-up cool-down lanes. And therefore, the stairs in that one warm-up cool-down lane is of no significance to the swim meet.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Just a quick comment. I happened to see that there was a protect in place on all the tile for the whole pool. I think that's incredibly optimistic. I know, minor detail, but I'm with it.
No, go ahead, Dennis. Are you talking the interior surface of the pool or the deck? Okay, yeah.
Interior.
Dennis,
Yeah, but I mean, that certainly is a challenge for us. What we have as we've been looking at what we think is going to happen with this and how this thing's going to scroll out from time and budget and all that, we're assuming there's going to be breakage of tile. I mean, we know that's going to happen, whether it's cracked, broken, chipped, becomes loose, that's going to have to be replaced. But the intent is not at this point to remove all of the tile and then replace the entire thing. One of the challenges will be, what are we going to replace the tile with? And do we come up with something that's complementary or a blending color, and exactly how we're going to do that?
Right, and that's probably more for Elias to deal with when they go out to bid, right? As an ad alternative or something. I don't know. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
As we get into construction documentation, we'll be visiting with tile manufacturers and stuff to look at all of our options and things, so that we'll come back to everybody saying, here are the options of how we can try to do this.
I have 3 more. I apologize. I'll try to go quickly. What I didn't see after the lobby changes happen, what does that do? It looked like it changes the front, the front of the plunge. What does the front look like now that happens, and is that okay with everybody? Darren, you're on mute.
No, that's a great question, and you're right. It does change the front in a minor way. The idea would be that, and we really, I apologize for not having an elevation for this, but the idea would be that these doors now become glass doors, right? So we have clear openings, floor to ceiling, into the space. This center panel, we would create a slight reveal still, so that we still have that inset feel with the two columns in front, but that would become a solid panel below. Now, we want to investigate whether or not we still keep a little clerestory window above, so we keep the rhythm of the glazing above. But ultimately, materially, it doesn't change much, because essentially we're still just going to have a solid panel. Now, we do bring this panel out, I believe, a foot, as a way of creating a little bit more space for that reception desk. But it's not such a major, I mean, we've done we've done a lot of renovations, and we do a lot of historic work in our office. And so this isn't a major material change to the building.
It's small enough that the Historical Society people aren't going to come after us?
Well, I think we'll have to work with the Historical Society, which I think is always important. I mean, for them to kind of, it's unlikely when you go to them as partners to reinvigorate a facility and maintain actually the consistent character of the building, that they'll have much issue with that. And there's so many creative ways in addressing that issue.
Yeah, and it may even look nicer.
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
cool.
Dave, if I could drop in on that, that's one of my concerns, because the exterior facade has got the classic Art Deco, which we kind of lose on the inside, short of the tiles and all that. But I think we could do a lot with it, and those spaces above the doors, I think we could even cut those down and put more dramatic doors coming into it. Take it from a 7.5, 8 foot door, take it up to almost a 9 to 10 foot door that has a real dramatic entrance to it, and maintain an Art Deco feel, and even have a faux center door, or kind of a faux look with the glass or something like that, that kind of allows us to maybe even put some kind of display in front in that center.
Absolutely.
So, and I think there's a lot to work with. That's just, if we're talking a final concept design, these are a lot of things I wanted to handle in committee, and I think we've got a lot of potential, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Last one for me. In the girls' locker room area, is the angled ceiling, is that a permanent part of the structure, or can we add ceiling height because of the new terrace?
Permanent part of the structure.
All right, as I was afraid of. Yeah, had to ask it. All right, thanks so much. Hey, and by the way, I should have started with this. I go to the concerns and things that are, but overall, I should have started with, man, this is so exciting, and I this is the first time I've seen this, and overall, it's awesome, just beautiful. So I had to say that.
Thank you.
Really excited. Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah. Ali, are you next?
Unless there's somebody else that wants to chime in.
Go ahead. Why don't you got it.
Perfect. Yeah. I'll just go from Dave. This is about the fourth time that I've seen different renditions of this, and every time I see it, I get very excited, because Darren, you're doing a phenomenal job, and the openness and the cleanness of the building, but still yet maintaining an Art Deco natatorium feel to it is great. There's a lot of questions that I have. We covered the decks, we covered the locker rooms. Kind of from Linnea's point of view, I'd like to hear from her. With those restrooms, the way we currently have them configured, this is the first time I've seen this, where they kind of, the walkway's on the outer edge, and then you keep on walking into an alcove where there's, 5 different types of stalls on most of them. Is that going to create a little obstacle for actually trying to supervise the area and make sure that everyone is, safe and not goofing around, and kids aren't doing things that they shouldn't be doing, as opposed to, putting on the interior wall and having it a more clean, open area, so that, if kids are down there goofing off and doing things they shouldn't be, it'd be a little easier to find them. And I just dropped my experience that a lot of kids would drop in the locker room and hide out, and it gives them a lot of those spaces, as opposed to trying to put it, maybe a little bit more against the wall, as opposed to inlets walking in.
I can see a little bit of challenge, but I think either way, it's better managed than it was before with it being all open against the windows. I think that creates a better open feel. Yes, we may have with the little alcoves, but I think that's going to happen anyway with locker rooms and doors and alcoves. I don't have any concerns about this design.
Yeah, I think, Lee, you're probably remembering back to the first design, which we proposed, which was to align everything along the back wall, and all of the access into the stalls from this main corridor. The issue was fixture counts, stall counts, et cetera. We weren't able to serve anywhere near the capacity that we've been able to achieve in this configuration. And I would say in the existing configuration, I mean, it requires a number of turns and ins and outs to be able to observe the whole thing. Whereas here, a single walk down the corridor, one pass, you would be able to observe any elements. And it's pretty rare in a restroom facility that you can just pop in and see all of the goings on.
Yeah, I think the number of stalls and showers and bathrooms is the most important in this sense with the different designs we've seen.
I should say, if the shower count isn't right, Elias is your guy to talk to about that. We're meeting his standard.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the pure numbers. I mean, I'm blown away by. It just came from a more supervision point of view, but perfect. Okay. And I like the numbers. Like I say, I like the design. I just wanted to make sure we weren't, putting too many pockets in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing you mentioned, the light shelf, and I assume that's why you put the bleachers on the east side, and yeah, there we go. And you put the terrace on the west side. The only problem that I had over the years, most everyone goes to the west side to watch, to have the sun at their back, and they're not looking into the sun from the actual bleachers. Now with the shelf, maybe that reduces some of it, but the late afternoon hours, which is the majority of the time spent in that pool, especially for the parents, is going to be looking right into the sun, especially, at that, 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, depending on time of year. Would it make more sense to invert them,
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, that's a really good observation. I think it has to do with who the spectators are. Are we talking about someone coming in waiting for their child to finish swim practice, at which case they might be more comfortable sitting, at a table or on the terrace or something rather than a bleacher. And I will say the other thought, and the reason we just immediately gravitated towards the west bleacher is to create that connection with Richmond Field. So there's a lot of activity going on out through those windows, et cetera. So it's just from the terrace perspective, you have that incredible view out toward the west, where you've got, you're able to view the kind of dunes off in the distance, the field below, and it creates a kind of relationship between the activities going on in the field and the swim center itself. So we thought that was a really kind of interesting connection to make for this, facility as a recreation facility, kind of extending to the other, recreational facilities throughout the community. And that's why we initially placed it there. And then really we are concerned about glare, but concerned about glare from a different perspective, which is, we thought being able to cut in on that low, late afternoon sun and utilize that to create more ambient light within the building was really important. I will say, structurally, there's no particular reason why having it. It's really just a design and looking more about a kind of planning to the larger neighborhood perspective.
Yeah, from my just, the years and being, from a swimmer to a parent, I found more time in the bleachers was looking down at the pool and the kids. And we have more people on that west side typically. And personally, I'd kind of have it flip-flop so that the parents would be on that west side with the connection to the park and everything else. They could look out the window as well as that, because they'll be there for the hour and a half, maybe 2 hours that their kids are in the water, and looking, as opposed to the kids that are coming in to warm up and do dry land. They'll be there for about a half hour, then they're in the pool doing what they do. So to me, it just seemed like it made more sense to flop, unless of course it was going to greatly reduce the glare and help with the, the overall visibility in the water. So, and that's just personal preference. I think you guys are the lighting guys, and I've seen some of the work you've done, and you do a great job. It just didn't make sense to me for some reason.
Okay.
The next thing, as far as, we're talking about a final conceptual design, the one thing that we don't see a whole lot of, and, you mentioned it at the very front to do the display at the front doors. And I think Julie agree with me on this, is that I'd almost like to see a little display, just about in between every window pattern where we put something up where we talk about, in one area that's between the windows, the Pan American Games of 1952. We talk about the next one of this, put water polo on one side, put swimming on one side, and then have the Olympics at that front area, because, we do have that kind of history to show the people of El Segundo that may not be familiar of how great this building was and how it produced so many great athletes. So that's something I think we do off in the future, not something we need to address, but something that we need to look at as this is, a progress report.
That's a really interesting, really interesting thought, though, about kind of separating the wings and it all kind of coalescing around the Olympic experience in the lobby. That could be really powerful. There could be the opportunity too on the terrace to create a kind of wall of honor, along these perimeter walls here. Maybe we think about something like a kind of linear gallery. That could be really exciting. With maybe a shelf here, cabinets, things on the wall.
Perfect. Well, I agree. I look forward to, continuing to do a lot of this conceptual design. And that's kind of what I got from this view. I think, this was a lot of the stuff that we talk in, the committee meeting. So it's exciting. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you very much, Darren.
Okay, Kelly, or Julie, go ahead, Julie.
Hi there. I think the concept, the ideas, the drawings are great also. I have a family history as well at the Plunge, and but I think, it's a long time coming, and I'm glad to see the progress and the changes on this. Some of the things that I had, of course, is the on the terrace on the west side. I like that idea of the terrace, whether it's east side or west side. But the west side, as far as for spectators, gets awfully hot. And that sun comes in those windows and everyone's opening the windows to get the breeze, but you've got the bright sun coming in, and it's very hot. So I don't know if maybe some awnings could be put on the outside of the building to where it can deflect a bit of that sun coming in. But it is an awfully hot area. The glass wall that you have going along there on the terrace, and you have the little dot pattern there, or whatever it's going to be. I look at things of not only the way that it looks, but how you're going to clean it, and what it's going to look like. And I think that is a good opportunity to, instead of just leaving it clear glass, because it's going to be covered with kids licking it and fingerprints and all of that stuff. And how often is the city staff going to be up there cleaning that glass? And we know how hard it is to clean glass and get it nice and clear. It's maybe a good opportunity. I like to look through glass that has an image on it, and this could be historical perspective as well. Putting, so you're still seeing through it, but you see some graphic images there. And it could be a good opportunity to use that for some of our historical display there. And then it hides the smudges, it hides the fingerprints, it hides all of that. But I do like the terrace idea, regardless of what side it's going to be on. As far as the lobby area of the Plunge, I don't think there is enough display area for the historical memorabilia that we have. And once again, those couple of niches that you had are going to be filled up with trophies and things, but there's a lot of stuff. And there's also a lot of old swimmers that are dying off that want to be, want to have a place to donate their memorabilia. And it would be a good opportunity if we had some display and I think we need more area for our historical memorabilia. The glass wall when you come in, I like that, and it's floor to ceiling. But once again, who's going to clean it? How clean is it going to be? And that would also be another opportunity to possibly cover that glass with images, or at least a portion of them. And like Lee was talking about, the Pan American Games, the Olympics, we just have so many photographs that could be used. And once again, that would cover up the dirty glass, because I know staff isn't going to have a lot of time to be cleaning that, and it is going to be a mess. And the restrooms, I was glad to see the change on those restrooms, but the thing is, we're taking away the plunge experience from all these kids. They didn't have the experience that we had of going down there and, oh my gosh, having to undress and all of that. It was like horrifying when we were young. It was, Lee knows what it's like. And Dave,
yeah,
it was just an awful thing. So I was so glad to see that the restrooms are changed, because it would be kind of like, do I want to swim today? No, thank you. I forgot my shower cap.
Yeah, it's enough to put you off from
Forgot my
ever
swim
returning.
cap. I can't swim today. But it's a big change there in the restrooms, and I think it's been needed for years and years. And I think the overall design is great, and the front of the plunge and the integrity of the building, with its design, needs to be maintained. I don't really know if glass entry doors are a good idea with the way that people are today. I see those being broken. I would rather see some nice doors that fit the design and period of that building, and not have glass doors there, because I don't know, it's society has changed in the way that they look at things and the way that they respect things, and I don't know if glass doors are the way to go. But there could be some nice solid doors with nice panels that would go with that period of the building. But otherwise, I think that the ideas and the concepts and everything you've done is very nice. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Julie.
Julie, thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, I just wanted to commend you guys on a fabulous job. I mean, at every turn when we raised, oh, we had a concern about this or concern about that, I mean, I'm just amazed at how brilliantly you've brought it all together and addressed so much of what the community raised. And, hats off for listening to the community. I think a big part of, why you were successful as bidders and why you've been so instrumental in this process is just your commitment to the community and hearing people's concerns and even adjusting things that I didn't think, oh, what's he going to do with that? And then you come back with this design today, which is really quite excellent. So thanks for that. And this has been a great process working with you.
Thank you, Kelly. We've enjoyed it.
I'm in awe of this. This is just amazing to see a presentation like this and see what you've all put together. Kelly and Lee, thank you for all your work with helping Darren and Dennis out and the community for being involved. This is amazing. If we can pull this off, this is really good. With that, let me see. I'm not seeing any other hands. Melissa, did you have anything?
Oh, it looks like Elias does.
I just see his hand down there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's go to Elias. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is really more of a question. But before I raise my question, I want to also thank Darren and his staff, because that was very well thought of. And thank you so much, Darren. One thing I like to ask the members of the commission has to do with fire sprinkler system. And I looked into that, and I did talk to Darren and my colleagues. Since we are not changing the use of the facility, and we are not adding any more space or capacity, we do not have to include a sprinkler system when we go through this this modification of this facility. But I think that having that sprinkler system is a safety measure, and I wanted to ask members of the commission about how they feel about that, because one of the things that is going to come up and in the next meeting we'll discuss would be that, and the cost is not going to be cheap, but in my humble opinion, it's really important to add that aspect of it to the building. Another thing which is already going to be added for your information, those trusses are going to have to be painted, and we're going to paint them with the type of paint that is also fire protected, so that is covered. But specifically, I'm concerned about the locations like a storage or the terrace where it's not necessarily close to the pool itself, and could potentially could be cut on fire, God forbid. So at least I want the members of the commission think about that, because we'll be discussing that, and it's not going to be cheap, but it is something that also our fire marshal recommends. I have spoken to him very briefly about this. So just a thought and a request for you members of the commission to think about that. And Julie, you are still very young, by the way.
Elias, did you want us to give you our opinions tonight, or wait until next month when we have the?
It's up to you. It would be good. It would be good if you want to express your opinion now. It would be, I would welcome it. But if you want to wait till next month, that would be also good. It's up to the members of the commission and yourself, Mr. Chair.
Kelly, what do you think? Do you want to wait till next week? I just go right around the room, or next month, or do you want to give me your opinion?
Sorry, my opinion specifically about the fire stuff, or
right. I hate to put you on the spot right now. If you want to think about it, that's fine too.
Yeah, let me think about it.
Okay, Julie.
Yeah, I'd like to think about it as well.
I don't need to think about it, Bob.
Okay.
It's going to blow the budget. It's going to be more than Elias is saying, number one. Number two, the building is almost completely concrete and steel, and it would be hard to burn. You could try to burn that building down, and it would be hard to do. So I think it's completely unnecessary and should be out of the scope.
Lee?
I mimic a lot of what Dave has to say, except for one portion, and that's how we actually build the terrace. The only portions that really could catch on fire are the bleachers, which, ironically and unfortunately are where the people are, where the most likely we would have, possibly a fire starting, but with no smoking. And I mean, to get a flame source like that, I find it hard to believe, especially, 75 years, and I don't think we've had one. And I used to work in a profession where we were very concerned about fire. I think that Elias is right in the fact that we should add an add-on to it and say that if we want fire suppression, it would cost X number of dollars. And as this runs up the chain, we can see, and if there's money in the budget, then great. I think it's a nice idea to have. But when we design the terrace, we should be designing it with not real wood, but perhaps Trex, which is a lot more fire retardant. And that would also add a lot of, safety to it, so that if we aren't able to afford the fire system, which I believe Dave is correct, it's gonna, our budget's already tight as it is. But that's my personal opinion. And like I say, there's not much to catch on fire. It is mostly all steel, tile, and concrete. So
Yeah. The roof would be the only exception, and then the terrace,
roof.
definitely non-combustible materials, but you're right that the existing bleachers are wood. That would be the only other area of concern. Also important, we're really improving ventilation in the facility too, which is going to be key to this.
Okay. I agree with Dave that I don't know how you're going to burn it down if you wanted to, but I'm not a fire prevention specialist, and I got to leave that to the experts. That portion, if it needs to be there, let's see where it comes up and what it does to the budget, and go to that point.
And I appreciate what the fire marshal said, but I mean,
Absolutely.
the fire marshal is going to say that, right? That's always going to be a recommendation if it's an option. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I was like, we're all concrete and steel here pretty much. But I just didn't want to jump into it. And maybe we could put a bunch of buckets on the deck and we got a whole pool full of water. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to eat up a huge chunk of money,
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to, let's see, I'm going to see.
Can I ask one more thing on that, Bob? Sorry. I'm assuming, Darren, I'm assuming all electrical is going to be replaced in this building as part of this as well. We haven't talked about any of that, right?
Yeah,
It's gonna
all
be
of the,
new.
yeah, all the electrical needs to be replaced.
Another reason
and
why
switchgear.
it's maybe not needed.
Yeah, and for the most part, all of the plumbing,
So those requirements are pretty good. Okay, thanks, Bob.
No problem. Melissa, anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention one more time, great feedback tonight, which is not a surprise. I think that's been the case throughout this whole process. So thank you to everybody. I did forget to mention Dennis and Aquatics Design Group at the beginning of this intro. So I wanted to acknowledge all of your many contributions. So thank you to all of you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Darren.
One thing with fire suppression that I add that we haven't really discussed this far is that in modern high rises with pools like this, in major cities, we would actually be using the pool as part of the fire protection. And that's certainly something that could be done here. Well, we can tap the water that's in that senior pool, for example, that a fire truck could come up to the building and attach to that to use that as water. That'd be something easy as part of this modernization to do, just as another benefit for the community.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, Melissa, you're going to want us to receive and file this till next month?
Yes, or even a motion to continue this item to
Okay.
the 19th meeting, I think would handle it.
Dave,
So moved.
Is there a
Continue the next
second?
meeting.
Second.
Okay. Montse, could we have a voice vote, please?
Kelly Watson,
Agree.
Julie Stolnak,
Agree.
Dave Lubes,
Yes.
Lee Davis,
Yes.
and Bob Moda.
Yes. That's 5-0. Thank you. We'll see this back next month. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move to reports of subcommittees. The Aquatic Subcommittee. Did you want to report again?
I think you got it. I think we're pretty thorough.
Well, you guys did a great job. Thank you. Gateway Committee.
We haven't met, so we don't have any update there. Unless Christopher has something.
Christopher, did you have anything on the Gateway?
No, unless
Okay.
Elias wants to step in.
I'm nuts.
As the city manager volunteered that he'll be working with the Gateway Committee on this. There has been, again, some discussions. So we are going to follow through with what he spoke and designers and again, nothing has transpired. Nothing. Frankly, we have not done any revision to the design, so I really don't have anything to share other than we're still trying to find out what would be the way to go forward with that, and that's where we are. So,
Okay, thank you. And Transportation Subcommittee, that's Kelly.
Yes, so we met and there's a couple things going on. One is that staff are going to work to put together an RFP to hire a consultant to investigate outsourcing the current transportation system, specifically Dial-A-Ride, the lunch shuttle, beach shuttle, and Dr. Dial-A-Ride. The situation has gotten pretty extreme in terms of being able to hire drivers. We've had some more drivers leave, and that has impacted service. We had originally, and when we met as a committee, I guess a year and a half ago now, or a year ago now, we were talking about exploring other important opportunities and looking at transportation as a whole in town. And so hopefully that that's going to be something that this particular consultant can weigh in on as well. But the immediate priority is to look at opportunities to outsource the transportation system. So that's underway. In terms of the farmers market bike valet idea, it's still on the table, but right now the farmers market space is really tight due to social distancing requirements for COVID. So we're going to reassess that in June as the market gets busier and as the COVID restrictions continue to lighten. And then in terms of the beach shuttle, we did find out that the junior guards is happening, but we, based on some ridership reports that we had gathered in the past, we think that the junior guards are not actually taking the beach shuttle as much as we had thought. So right now there are no plans to run the shuttle because the COVID restrictions are just too high and because we've had this driver problem. It will be in the scope of the transportation consultant to look at beach shuttle as well. And we hope to reassess this in June because we should have information about the transportation consultant by that time. So we are going to meet again. Our next subcommittee meeting will be on June 7th.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, Youth Sports Council, Dave.
No, not that I know of.
Nope. Nope, no meeting. Okay, thank you. Staff reports. Aricia's report is a written report. Are there any comments on her report? Because we can get that information back to her if there's any questions. Anybody? Seeing none. Thank you. Christopher Henson, Parks Maintenance Superintendent, your report, please.
I'll be brief. You have my report. The only update I have is Acacia Park was delayed a little bit in the playground surfacing turf. And we're looking, right now, we seem to be looking like towards the end of April for completion there. And I'll take any questions.
Anyone? It looks like Julie, go ahead.
Christopher, there's been a lot of people on Facebook wanting to know when Acacia is going to be opening. So maybe if the park could put an update on Facebook, just kind of letting people know where we stand and with a possible, opening or what's going to happen, because people are getting excited about it and seeing what's happening there. So maybe there could be an update.
Okay.
Anyone else for Christopher? Thank you, Christopher. All right, Director's report, Melissa.
Sure. So in addition to my written report, I did want to share a few updates from last night's City Council meeting and yesterday's strategic planning session. The City Council did authorize an agreement with RGM Design Group for the Recreation Park Needs Assessment. The interview committee, which included Commissioner Loops, selected RGM Design Group as the best qualified firm based on team composition, relevant experience with similar projects, including needs assessment and master plans for San Dimas, Temecula, Riverside, Costa Mesa, and Huntington Beach, knowledge and familiarity with the city of El Segundo, and overall proposal quality and ability to meet the scope of work. RGM has worked in El Segundo before, both by creating an aquatics master plan in 2003, as well as the preliminary design for the Campus El Segundo soccer complex in 2007. So staff did estimate 9 months for the project, but City Council has asked for an expedited timeline. So we're going to work on that, and we're hoping to kick off the project in May. And we'll definitely need your involvement throughout the project. So more to come at the next Rec and Park Commission meeting, if not before. City Council also voted to incorporate a proposed Topgolf revenue allocation policy into the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 city budget that will go back to City Council for consideration on May 4th. It would include an annual $200,000 community benefit contribution dedicated to recreation and park capital improvement projects. The subject would be subject to an annual review and approval, but it really is wonderful news that the funding for public infrastructure would be a priority, and specifically rec and park facilities. Yeah, good news. I applaud it also. Aquatic Center report for 2019 and 2020 was also on last night's agenda, and there was considerable concern expressed about the net revenue deficits for the first 2 years. So as a reminder, it was $352,215 in 2020, which equates to about $9.74 per visit. We also received direction to review related programming of the pool and aquatics fees, and then return to City Council with some recommendations. So we'll be working on that. During the strategic planning session, a new top 10 priority was added related to reviewing rec and park programming and operations for long-term viability. And again, especially with respect to the Aquatic Center and the plunge. The needs assessment program project should really help with this effort, along with a planned fee study that will be led by the finance department. So that new priority joins other community services led goals in the strategic plan, such as obtain an age-friendly city designation, determine the future of the teen center, enhance collaborative teen programs, develop options for expanding library services, and develop a plan for renovating the plunge, many of which are already underway. But fiscal year 21-22 will be another busy year, but hopefully less about the pandemic and more about recreation. So as Christopher mentioned, Acacia Park is delayed. We did want to, or I want to clarify that there will not be a community ribbon cutting ceremony because of COVID, but we are hoping to make a celebratory video to release on the day of opening. So Ryan Delgado is going to be working with our communications department and El Segundo Media to create that video. And we'll be reaching out to you to see if you want to be involved, be filmed along with council, and be part of that video that will be pushed out. But Julie, I've seen some of those comments too, and we were hoping to be able to pick a day today, but we're still not quite ready to do that. But we will get a message out to the community to let them know we're still targeting before April. So hopefully we'll be able to surprise everybody someday next week, and it'll be ready. City manager mentioned at last night's city council meeting that the all hazard incident management team and the community service department are working on a plan to celebrate July 4th this year, following LA County protocols. I don't have details to share because the plan is still development, and it'll definitely look different than last year, but we are very hopeful that we will be able to offer a fireworks show. So we'll share more information with all of you as that information becomes available. I also finally wanted to mention that the vaccination clinics continue to take place in the clubhouse. Chief Donovan reported yesterday that approximately 1,200 vaccinations have been given via the city's all hazard information team. Recreation staff are involved in that effort, and I think should be very proud of their many contributions this year. So that's it. Happy to answer questions, but thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Hang on, let me just go right. Hold on 1 minute, Elias. No, none from commission. Elias, go ahead.
Just want to mention, I don't know if Melissa, if you want to talk about the festivity for April the 30th at the Library Park and the closure of Main Street? Or do you want me to talk about it?
Go for it. To the level that
Yeah.
that
So
involves
we
the
were,
city.
sure, we were approached by Dr. Moore to close Main Street from the block in front of the Library Park from Mariposa to Palm, I believe, in order to facilitate the students that may be crossing from school to the Library Park. This is an event that is replacing the prom celebration of the seniors. So it's going to take place on Friday, April the 30th, and we are closing Main Street from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., I believe. And the celebration is going to be taking place, and the road will be barricaded, and I believe we already have those message boards on Main Street letting the public know. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Thank you very much. Melissa, anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll move to commissioner comments. Commissioner Watson, Kelly.
Yeah, you know how I always like to share an anecdote or some study motivating people to get outside. So today's anecdote is that there is research that shows that outdoor activity may have a protective effect on the eyes, reducing the development of nearsightedness. So get outside, El Segundo. It'll help your eyes.
Thank you. Commissioner Stolnak, Julie.
I don't really have any comments. I did have an issue. There was a while ago on, I think it was Next Door Neighbor or Facebook, and I contacted Carol and also Drew about some errant geese from the golf course that had some babies wandering around. I think it was maybe the edge or the point, and told the city that, you know, we evicted the wildlife, the ducks and the geese, without any notice. And the city needed to follow up on that so that we don't have, you know, these poor geese dying or their babies dying. And the city got on it right away. And I really appreciate that. And I guess the golf course, the McCarthy doing the construction, put some kiddie pools out on the course so that hopefully the geese and the ducks could go back to there if they were having their babies, because I was concerned they were going to start taking up residence in residence pools like they have done in the past. So I want to thank the city for jumping on that and taking care of that. Otherwise, I think the plunge plan is a good one, and that will be moving forward and getting even better. And I hope we go back to our in-person meetings quite soon. I miss seeing everybody and being together instead of doing this on Zoom. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lubes, Dave.
Appreciate Kelly and Lee leading the charge for the commission with regard to the pool. I always appreciate all the extra time that all of you put into the subcommittee. So thanks to both of you. It's beautiful.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chairperson Davis, Lee.
Yeah, briefly comment on the council meeting. I was able to watch it last night, and there was a handful of facts from people who are now on council that were just a little bit less than accurate. And a lot of what we're doing within aquatics is very positive. I know that they're trying to get total cost recovery, which was always a goal. And maybe that's all they ever heard, but it was just a goal, and it hasn't been achieved in a lot of places. But I'm hoping, with Councilperson Persick, taking an interest in our committee and stuff like this, and she was in a lot of those talks at the latter stages of the pool. And we have to understand that this is a work in progress, and we're probably not going to be total cost recovery for a while, if at all. But it is a goal. And let's not try to to throw away the pool. And when I say throw away the pool, I think we've got another 1.5 years, 2 years or something like that before council will reevaluate whether they're going to hand back that pool. No, it's actually 3 years till they can hand back the pool to Wiseburn. And because it doesn't make total cost recovery, that is not what we're here to do with that pool. It was too hard to get that pool. And we should understand that this is going to take some time. And with the immense turnover we've had in personnel, it's very difficult to maintain a consistent program. So that's my way to vent or air what I believe to have happened in the last over last night, back to certain individuals who are new to the game to a certain extent. All right, that's basically what I have, and thank you very much. I thank people like Carol for showing an interest in coming into the meeting, and Darren and the guys at Mintham are just doing a great job. I couldn't be happier with a lot of the progress we're making. So thank you very much, and that's all I got.
Lee, thanks for your comments. My only a couple comments tonight. Carol, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's nice to see you. Kelly and Lee, great job with the committee for the plunge. I think it was a great presentation, and I know you put in a lot of time, so thank you very much. And with that, we'll adjourn to the next regular meeting on Wednesday, May 19th at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Bob.